Okay, so a 120-kilometer road was recently built in West Africa. And you might be thinking, so what? But the story we're diving into today isn't just about the road. It's about how it was built. According to the source we're exploring, this single project challenges the entire way we think about global development. So let's get into it and break down this pretty radical approach from Burkina Faso.
All right, so this is the big question, right? The central puzzle of this whole story. How in the world does a country, especially one in the Sahel region, build a massive 120-kilometer paved road with absolutely zero, not a single dollar of the usual international funding?
And yeah, let's just let that number sink in for a second. 120 kilometers. We're not talking about a small country lane here. This is a major piece of infrastructure. And the claim, the really wild claim at the heart of all this, is that it was done with zero outside money. You know, according to the source, that's something that's supposed to be pretty much impossible for most developing nations. Okay, so that brings us to our first big idea here. See, this whole thing wasn't really just about pouring asphalt and painting lines. It was about making a statement, a really powerful one. This project was basically designed to prove a point that a country can build what it needs without getting tangled up in debt to foreign powers.
So, who got left out of the party? Well, the no list is pretty striking. We're talking no loans from the IMF, no loans from the World Bank, no foreign aid whatsoever, no foreign contractors brought in to do the work, and, to use the source's own term, no help from so-called colonizers. I mean, when you look at that list, you gotta wonder, if all the usual suspects are out, who on earth is left to actually do the building?
Well, the answer, at least according to the source material, wasn't about money from the outside. It was about power from the inside. We're talking about a massive nationwide mobilization of people. The story here is that the entire country basically became the workforce for this project. And this quote, man, it really just sums it all up, doesn't it? Everybody came in to support the vision. It just paints this incredible picture of an entire population getting behind one big idea, all chipping in with their own hands to make it happen.
And when you actually look at who these volunteers were, it's just remarkable. This wasn't just your typical construction crew. The story describes students giving up their holidays to work, women and even young girls helping out, carrying cement. And the whole thing was run by local engineers, local builders, local workers, a complete homegrown effort.
So you have to ask why. Why go through all this trouble? The answer really gets down to the core belief, the ideology that was driving this whole thing. It comes from this deep, deep suspicion of foreign loans and, on the flip side, a fierce belief in doing things for yourself.
And at the center of that ideology is this idea that the source calls the debt trap. The way it's described is pretty simple. It's that situation where foreign loans start to cost a country its own economic control, its own sovereignty. So this entire road project, it was basically designed from the ground up to be an escape route from that exact trap. And this right here, this really lays it all out in black and white. You've got these two totally different ways of thinking about development. On one side, you have the standard foreign loan model, which the source paints as a path to dependency and debt. And on the other side, you have this new Burkina Faso model they're trying to build, all about independence, being debt-free, and keeping national control. Okay, but this whole philosophy, this idea of self-reliance, it's not just about one road and one country. The source we're looking at connects this to a much bigger picture, a huge political shift that's happening right now across the entire Sahel region of Africa.
What we're seeing, according to the source, is a brand new alliance forming between Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. The source even has a name for them, the Sahel nations, and they're shown as being totally united by this one shared vision, taking back their sovereignty and pushing back against foreign influence.
And if you look closer at these three countries, the source points out a pretty clear pattern emerging. You've got military leaders who've recently come to power in all three. And what's their shared goal? Well, it's pretty much the same across the board. Resist Western influence, assert national sovereignty, and, you guessed it, achieve economic self-reliance.
But there's one last piece to this puzzle, and it's a really important one. It's all about how this story is being told, or maybe more to the point, how it's being ignored by the big international media outlets. And the accusation is really, really direct. The source basically says, the Western media, they will never report such news. But if you hear news of terrorism, they'll be the first to report. So the claim here is that positive stories like this road get buried, while anything negative like terrorism or conflict gets blasted everywhere, all to, in their words, tarnish the image of the region's new leadership.
So, because of this feeling that there's a media blackout on positive stories, the creator of the source material we're looking at positions themselves as the alternative. Their whole goal is to be a platform that shares the good news, the stuff they argue is being deliberately swept under the rug.
So at the end of the day, this 120-kilometer road is presented as way more than just asphalt and gravel. It's held up as this powerful symbol of a totally different future, a future built on a nation's own will, not on international loans. The story we've unpacked really champions this path of self-reliance, but it leaves us with a huge critical question to think about. What does this kind of development actually look like in practice? And could a model like this truly change the game for other nations around the world?